So, a listener recently brought up something I think really hits home for a lot of us. This feeling that you're doing everything right, taking the calcium, the vitamin D, following the doctor's advice.
Mm,
But it still feels like time is just, well, winning.
Yeah.
Like you're watching yourself age almost in fast forward.
yeah.
Skin losing that bounce, energy may be draining away, perhaps even those bone density worries starting to creep in.
Yeah, it's a really common frustration. And what the sources we looked at suggest is that there might be this almost invisible deficiency at play.
Invisible.
Yeah, for millions of people, especially, folks over 60, it's so overlooked, it could actually be speeding up the aging process without anyone realizing it.
Wow. Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive. That
Right.
we need to figure out what this forgotten vitamin actually is.
Right. And why it's so incredibly important for, well, aging well, vibrantly.
And also, this is the really interesting part to me. Why hasn't it been a bigger deal in, regular medicine, despite what sounds like some pretty powerful research?
Exactly. There's some fascinating material you shared, and we're definitely going to unpack all of that today.
Okay, let's get into it. So this vitamin K2, the journey kind of starts with a story, doesn't it? About Martha.
Yeah, Martha, a 68-year-old grandmother, sounds like, from Ohio. And she was doing everything by the book, taking the calcium, the D, the multivitamins, exactly what her doctor told her.
Right, the standard advice.
The standard advice. But she felt like she was aging really fast, skin losing its elasticity, energy just tanking, and her bone density scans, well, they weren't looking good.
She was making that mistake so many people make, right? Missing a key piece without even knowing it.
Precisely. But then she has this conversation with her Japanese daughter-in-law, Yuki. And Yuki tells her about her own grandmother in Japan.
Who lived to be 102. That's
Okay.
amazing.
Yeah, 102, with great skin, strong bones, still gardening, dancing, well into her 90s. And when Martha mentioned her own struggles, Yuki kind of recognized the pattern.
And what did Yuki say?
Well, this is where the cultural wisdom comes in. Yuki mentioned, my grandmother always talked about this invisible vitamin that keeps you young from the inside out.
Ah, the invisible vitamin.
And that you, our listener, is vitamin K2. It's not just, another pill to swallow. Think of it more like the master conductor for your body's whole aging process.
A master conductor. I like that image.
Yeah.
What's it conducting exactly?
Okay, so picture K2 as like your body's personal traffic controller. Super efficient, its main job. It's pretty amazing, actually. It directs calcium away from your arteries.
Away from the arteries. Okay.
Yeah, preventing that dangerous hardening, calcification that leads to heart problems. But at the same time, it steers that same calcium directly to your bones and teeth.
Where you actually need it.
Exactly, where it builds strength and density.
So it's not just about how much calcium we get, but really making sure it goes to the right address in the body. That changes things, doesn't it?
It's a total shift in perspective. And it goes even further. K2 also activates these proteins that are crucial for skin elasticity, for keeping your organs working optimally.
So those things we see, wrinkles, saggy skin, they might actually be linked to what's happening inside with calcium.
Often, yes, they can be external signs of that internal calcium depositing in soft tissues where it shouldn't be. K2 is like the body's internal renovation crew, always working to keep things flexible, functional, repaired.
That is genuinely astounding. So why? Why is something so fundamental? Why is it so misunderstood? We've all heard of vitamin K, kind of.
Right, vitamin K.
But K2 specifically just seems to fly under the radar.
Well, that gets to a really important point. Most doctors know vitamin K1. It's essential for blood clotting. Everyone learns that.
Okay.
But K2, it's a totally different molecule, biochemically speaking. It's like having, I don't know, two keys with the same name. K1 is for basic survival, like stopping bleeding. K2 is more for like optimal long-term health, healthy aging. And there's a huge knowledge gap. The sources point out medical schools, they might spend less than 20 hours total on nutrition.
20 hours.
Yeah.
In the entire curriculum.
Yeah. So K2 ends up being this sort of niche thing in mainstream medicine. Pharmaceuticals get the focus. It's kind of systemic, Our healthcare system hasn't historically prioritized this deep nutritional science the way it has drug therapies.
It really is eye-opening. It makes you wonder. I mean, think about it. How many people do you know who are maybe taking calcium pills for their bones and maybe blood pressure medicine for their heart
Right.
and maybe some expensive cream for their skin? Could these things actually be connected to just one deficiency that nobody's addressing?
It's like you said, trying to fix a leaky roof by just mopping the floor constantly instead of actually patching the hole.
Exactly.
But the good news is the evidence for K2, it's not just interesting. It's Well, it's pretty transformative when you look at it.
Okay, let's dive into that evidence then. What are some of the big studies showing?
Well, there's one in the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research, big study. Over 4,000 postmenopausal women followed for 3 years,
Yeah.
and they found that the women with the highest K2 levels, they had 50% fewer fractures. 50%.
50% fewer. That's huge, especially for that group where fractures are such a major risk. What about heart health? That's often an even bigger concern for people.
Absolutely. So there was a major study in the Netherlands. Almost 5,000 people followed for 7 years. And get this, the ones who consumed the most K2 had a 50% lower risk of dying from heart disease.
Wow, another 50% reduction.
And maybe even more striking, they had significantly less arterial calcification. One source actually described it as their arteries aging in reverse.
Arteries aging in reverse. Now that's a phrase that grabs your attention. That sounds incredibly hopeful.
Doesn't it? And then there's the research out of Japan, which is also really compelling.
What did they find?
So in one Japanese study, K2 didn't just stop bone loss in postmenopausal women, it actually increased their bone density.
Increased it after menopause.
Yeah.
I thought that was supposed to be almost impossible naturally.
That's what doctors often say, yeah. Nearly impossible. But this research showed women taking K2 literally had bones getting younger, getting stronger.
And these numbers, these studies, they translate into real people's lives, like Martha's story we started with.
Exactly. It brings the science to life. So back to Martha. Within just 6 weeks of getting enough K2.
6 weeks. That's fast.
Right. Her skin started glowing, energy levels shot up, and her next bone density test. Dramatic improvement. Her doctor was apparently genuinely shocked.
And didn't you mention her calcium score? The heart risk predictor.
Yes, that's a critical detail. Her calcium score actually decreased. That's something you rarely see happen naturally. It really speaks to K2's power to actively move calcium around.
It shows those measurable biological changes happening.
Right, at the cellular level.
And it's not just about bones and skin. The sources mention heart health too, like with Robert.
Yeah, Robert, 71, retired engineer from Texas. Battling high blood pressure for years, taking meds, adds K2.
And what happened?
Within 4 months, his blood pressure normalized. So much so, his doctor actually reduced his medication, and his latest heart scan showed improvements his cardiologist called remarkable for someone his age.
Remarkable. It's amazing how these individual stories just perfectly echo the big study findings, isn't it?
It really is. It shows how K2 seems to have these wide-ranging effects way beyond just bones. It's hitting the cardiovascular system too, profoundly.
And then there was Linda, the teacher from California.
Right, Linda,
Yeah.
65. Worried about osteoporosis, saw her mother struggle with it. She learns about K2, makes the changes.
And her bone density?
It didn't just stabilize, it actually improved. Her doctor called that result virtually unheard of without drugs for someone her age.
Wow. These are just powerful examples of what happens when the body finally gets a nutrient it's been missing.
Exactly, a nutrient it desperately needs.
Okay, so this leads to the big question. How do we actually get this? How do we unlock K2's potential for ourselves? Where is this forgotten vitamin found?
Well, the good news is K2 isn't some brand new lab creation. It's actually deeply rooted in traditional diets. Diets that, unfortunately, are often missing from our modern processed way of eating.
An ancestral connection, you called it.
That's right. Think about fermented foods, like natto, that fermented soybean dish from Japan.
Ah, natto, known for being potent.
Very potent in K2. Also, certain aged cheeses, particularly from grass-fed animals like you find in the Netherlands, and organ meats from pasture-raised livestock, think French pâtés, or even just high-quality grass-fed dairy.
So it's probably not a coincidence, then, that the populations who traditionally eat these K2-rich foods,
Like the Japanese with natto, the Dutch with their cheese.
they tend to have remarkably low rates of heart disease and osteoporosis, and maybe even fewer visible signs of aging.
Exactly. They've been unknowingly benefiting for generations, while much of the modern world developed these deficiencies because those foods fell out of favor.
Okay, but let's be realistic. For a lot of us, eating natto or pâté regularly might be, well, a challenge. So supplementation comes up.
Right. It often does.
But the sources are really clear. Not all vitamin K2 supplements are created equal. That sounds important.
It's a crucial distinction.
Yep.
You really need to know what you're looking for. There are two main forms, MK4 and MK7.
MK4 and MK7. Okay.
MK4, you find it in animal products, but its drawback is it has a really short half-life in the body. You need to take it multiple times a day to keep levels up.
That sounds inconvenient.
It can be. Now, MK7, that's the form found in fermented foods, especially natto. It stays active in your system much, much longer.
Ah, so that's generally better for supplements.
It's more convenient, and importantly, most of the really impressive research studies we talked about, they use the MK7 form, usually at specific doses shown to be effective, so knowing the form, MK7, is key.
Got it. MK7. And it's not just about taking K2 by itself, is it? The sources mention teamwork.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Synergy is critical. K2 doesn't work in a vacuum. It works hand in glove with other key nutrients, especially vitamin D3.
Which many people are taking already.
Right, but also magnesium. If you're low in these cofactors, D3 and magnesium, you likely won't get the full benefits from K2. It's like trying to start a car with a dead battery.
Doesn't matter how good the engine is.
Exactly. You need
Huh.
all the parts working together. Martha's daughter-in-law, Yuki, she seemed to get this, helping Martha look at her whole nutrient picture, not just one isolated vitamin.
This whole deep dive, it really drives home that K2 isn't just about preventing age-related problems. It seems like it might actually help reverse some existing damage.
That's the really exciting potential. That the effects of being deficient, they can often be corrected, and relatively quickly sometimes, once you give the body what it needs. That internal renovation crew gets staffed up again.
And those visible signs we talked about, the skin, the elasticity, they're often just reflections of those internal processes, like calcium going to the wrong places, which K2 directly tackles.
Precisely. And unlike some age-related changes that feel permanent, the issues linked to K2 deficiency often seem responsive to correction.
But there's a catch, isn't there? Time isn't exactly on our side with this.
That's the crucial takeaway, I think. Every day you're deficient in K2. Well, that's another day. Calcium might be hardening your arteries instead of strengthening your bones. Another day your body might be aging faster than it really has to.
Wow. What a thought. It really reframes the whole idea of aging gracefully, doesn't it? Maybe that fountain of youth everyone looks for. Maybe it isn't some myth.
Maybe it's a fundamental nutrient like K2 that's just been hiding in plain sight all this time.
So we really encourage you, our listener, do your own research based on this. Look into the studies and, crucially, talk to a healthcare provider who actually understands nutritional medicine. Someone who can help you figure out if your body has what it needs.
Because taking action now, getting informed, making those changes, it really can make a difference. Your future self is kind of counting on the choices you make today.